What is the greatest "fuck it, I'll do it myself" moment in history? Dr. Barry Marshall for infecting himself with H. pylori to prove they were the cause of ulcers. He earned a Nobel Prize for his efforts. Seriously. Go watch old TV shows and movies. There's always some guy chugging Pepto or mainlining ulcer medicine because they're 5 minutes past the deadline. Dr. Marshall killed the billion-dollar ulcer medicine industry. The man who invented the automatic switchboard. Switchboards used to require a person to physically move a cable to connect the call. Did so because his funeral home wasn't getting any customers. The lady operating the switchboard was the wife of his rival and was redirecting the calls to her husband, instead of complaining to the phone company, which would have probably gotten her fired if they found sufficient evidence. He took matters into his own hands and made her entire job obsolete. The doctor who had to do his own appendectomy in a mirror because he was the only one who could do it in Antarctica. Famous writer Roald Dahl. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The BFG. James and the Giant Peach, etc. Developed and patented a surgical device to treat children with traumatic brain injuries. Dahl had no medical training. He just did it. Dahl's 4-year-old son was injured in a car accident and developed dangerous pressure on his brain. Due to swelling, surgeons installed a shunt in Dahl's son's skull to drain fluid and relieve pressure. But it kept clogging. There was no better solution on the market, so Dahl worked with a toy maker to design a new shunt that drained fluid without clogging. Dahl was able to patent the design and it was subsequently used to treat thousands of children. Didn't Lamborghini start making supercars because the owner tried to buy a Ferrari and they wouldn't sell to him? In 1959, Dashrath Manji's wife died from injuries resulting from trying to cross the mountain to access the closest hospital. There was no road, so he, over the course of over 2 decades with a hammer and chisel, moved the Sikkim mountain. His country, India, made a postage stamp with the mad lad's face on it. Dude swore vengeance on a damn mountain and won. Wikipedia passage about the U.S. soldier Audie Murphy at the Colmar Pocket in World War II. The Germans scored a direct hit on an M10 tank destroyer, setting it alight, forcing the crew to abandon it. 81. Murphy ordered his men to retreat to positions in the woods, remaining alone at his post, shooting his M1 carbine and directing artillery fire via his field radio while the Germans aimed fire directly at his position. 82. Murphy mounted the abandoned, burning tank destroyer and began firing its .50 caliber machine gun at the advancing Germans, killing a squad crawling through a ditch towards him. 83. For an hour, Murphy stood on the flaming tank destroyer returning German fire from foot soldiers and advancing tanks, killing or wounding 50 Germans. He sustained a leg wound during his stand, and stopped only after he ran out of ammunition. Murphy rejoined his men, disregarding his own injury, and led them back to repel the Germans. He insisted on remaining with his men while his wounds were treated. 81. Quote, he was 19 years old when this occurred. North Korea attempted to hack someone who used to do cybersecurity for the Department of Defense in an attempt to steal some of his hacking software. He notified the FBI, and after waiting a year for nothing to come of it, he decided to hack into servers and routers of North Korea and effectively took down their internet, as well as the majority of their sites for days. https www.wired.com/story/p4x-north-korea-internet-hacker-identity-reveal/ John Stapp, Air Force doctor who was convinced that more pilots could survive if their seats didn't disintegrate on crash landings. He proved it by strapping himself into a Mythbusters-style rocket sled and not dying. His work led to safer planes and cars. By riding the decelerator sled, Stapp demonstrated that a human can withstand at least 46.2 grams in the forward position with adequate harnessing. This is the highest known acceleration voluntarily encountered by a human, said on December 10, 1954. Stapp reached a speed of 632 miles per hour, 1017 kilometers per hour, which broke the land speed record and made him the fastest man on Earth. http www.ejectionsite.com/stapp.htm. The woman who delivered her own baby by C-section. I guess she has several kids and knew the baby was in distress. But her husband was at the bar. So she took a shot of alcohol and delivered the baby. They all lived. Even the husband. Dr. Tracy Dixon Salazar, who went and got her PhD in neurobiology because her daughter was having seizures and nobody could tell her why this was happening and nobody could treat her daughter. She found a treatment when nobody else could. Incredible woman. Newton inventing calculus. He was trying to solve problems that were unsolvable or very tedious to solve. Instead of trying to solve them with the help of his peers, he simply invented a new branch of mathematics to solve them. And then he basically discarded his invention after he achieved his goal because he moved on to other problems later. There were rumblings about a new way to solve problems and he's like, "Oh yeah, I did that years ago. It's in some of my journals over there." Linus Torvalds and the birth of Git. Don't change license terms for software Linus relies on. He will write you out of business. English Dr. Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids who had caught cowpox, a close genetic relative of smallpox with significantly reduced virulence, did not seem to catch smallpox when outbreaks would occur. As a result, he hypothesized to other physicians that infection with cowpox could be used to prevent smallpox. But they didn't buy it and essentially laughed him out of the room. Jenner proceeded to infect his gardener's 8-year-old son with cowpox and, after the boy recovered, exposed him to smallpox repeatedly, effectively demonstrating his initial hypothesis to the initially skeptical medical community. Jenner's On the Origin of the Vaccine Inoculation, wherein he published his results, set the foundation for the first smallpox vaccine and, eventually, the eradication of the disease altogether. Neil Armstrong going to manual control on the Apollo 11 lunar lander when he saw the computer was steering them towards a rocky landing site.